Frank Wilson is gone. 9 players are in the portal, and Lane Kiffin is being quiet. So what is the plan? I'll tell you what I know. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making it your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Thank you for tolerating my voice. I am fighting it a little bit, but we're going to get through today's episode, and I appreciate you for hanging out with us here. Lane Kiffin, when he was hired, had that Monday press conference where he answered about a dozen questions. And since then, Lane Kiffin has been quite vocal on social media, as you'd imagine he will be. But he hasn't said a word publicly since. He hasn't done interviews. He passed on the College Game Day interview. He hasn't done local interviews. He hasn't gone on McAfee. He hasn't said anything into a microphone publicly. The only places he's really been seen are some of the yoga studios around town. So I think there's this question right now, especially with the December signing period now behind us. Frank Wilson, we know now, has told the team he's not going to return after the bowl game, and it's being reported, as we have as well, that he's going to join Pete Golding's staff at Ole Miss. And the December signing period is, just a little over the January portal window opens in a little over 2 weeks. And so I think there's this feeling, especially with Frank leaving and then shortly after learning guys like Colin Hurley and Karius Kern are going into the portal. Now 9 LSU players leaving in the portal. What is going on? What is the plan? What is the strategy? And I'll tell you that to this point, I have still not had a conversation with Lane Kiffin, with Billy Glasscock, with the new coaches. I did meet Thaddeus Rivers, who's the director of player personnel, this week, very briefly. We did not talk shop. It was just a very brief, hello, nice to meet you. But what I have been able to do is gather a lot of information from people around the program to kind of start to put a pieces of the puzzle together. Like, let me explain. It would be one thing if I could go sit down with Lane Kiffin or Billy Glasscock and ask very direct questions to try to get answers. With that not being the case, what I've had to do is basically rely on people who are very familiar with what is happening to try to give me information. While they may not be telling me the story, think of it like if someone took all the pieces of the puzzle and dumped them on the table, and you have to figure it out. Well, you may not have a great starting point except to say, okay, well, let me find the end pieces, the corner pieces. And then there's this big red blob. So let's put all the red pieces together and start making a mix and match. So you can start to put together what's happening. And I feel like that's kind of where I am. And I'll tell you this, and that's come from having conversations with dozens of people, current players, current staff members, administrators, boosters, lots of people who have had these conversations. And one thing that is abundantly clear is that when Lane Kiffin got here, his immediate need, like that Sunday when he got here, Monday met with reporters. Remember, Wednesday was the early signing period. So his immediate first challenge was December signing period. What guys has LSU offered? Who do we want to honor those offers? Who do we want to flip from Ole Miss? Those, and so you get through the December signing period, right? And from there, everything has been about evaluation of the current roster to see who will have the opportunity to return and at what price. That's key. We'll get to that in a second. And then also organizing the transfer portal board. Needs, financial allocation for those needs, and then looking at guys who have announced or declared they're going into the portal and start having those conversations with representatives. On Monday of this week, as we record this now, it's Wednesday night. On Monday of this week, I interviewed Juwan Johnson, who had declared at the end of last week he was going to the transfer portal. Juwan Johnson told me on Monday that he'd still not had a conversation with Lane Kiffin. This is a player that's already declared for the transfer portal, has not yet had a conversation with the head coach. What that tells you is they had not even, meaning Kiffin and Billy Glasscock, they had not even started their retention conversations yet as of Monday of this week. Now, I'm told those conversations have begun. So the current LSU Tigers have begun to have those retention conversations with the new staff. And I think a big part of this is not just, do you want to come back, but do you want to come back and at what price? Because I think one thing that may be the biggest takeaway that I have so far from all of these conversations is that to this point, of the 9 players that have declared they're going in the transfer portal, there is not a single player yet that LSU, the new staff, intended to keep or intended to keep and pay at the same level or greater from a year ago. So that's to say, maybe as Billy Glasscock and Lane Kiffin sit down and look at this roster, maybe there's a player that was making, you call it $100,000. I'm just throwing out a round number. Well, based on how they're allocating funds for this roster, they may look at that player and say, that's a $40,000 player. And so if the player isn't willing to stay at that rate, then they probably don't have a spot. It's probably best to go in the portal and shop, because they've done their evaluations and they know where they want to allocate funds. And so, as I understand it, while some of these announcements, like Carius Kern, I would say Carius Kern and Ahmad Bro would probably be the 2 biggest surprises, guys that you thought would be key contributors. As I understand it, this staff has not lost anyone yet that they intended to keep or that they intended to pay at the same level as last year. And what they have done, however, is been very aggressive when they see a fit. Think about how they handled Blake Baker. They wanted Blake Baker. They went very aggressive to make sure they kept Blake Baker. And the other thing, too, that is so abundantly clear to me is this staff is not going to be married to guys that showed up here and were highly ranked. Carius Kern is probably the best example of that. He was a top 50 overall player in the composite. He was a 5-star. He played in 7 games a year ago with 5 starts, and I think has very high ceiling and potential. But if that staff came in, did their evaluation and said, we don't think he fits what we want to do, they're not going to overpay to retain a guy that they don't think fits what they want to do. That's why this has to be, and they are very clearly married to their evaluations. That is probably the clearest thing of everyone I've talked to, from high school coaches and boosters and administrators and the current staff who have met with Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock. They all keep saying the same thing. It is all about their evaluation. When they put on the film, when they look at a player, does that player fit what they want? A great example that we gave you on signing day was Kenny Darby. That was one of the top players in the country, one of the top receivers in the country from Louisiana, a kid who'd been committed to LSU for more than a year, and boom, he didn't have a spot. Why? He doesn't fit the profile of what LSU under Lane Kiffin wanted in their receivers. It's the same conversation we're having about Frank Wilson. We're all upset because Frank recruits New Orleans. Well, from this staff standpoint, the way they're building a roster is just going to be dramatically different. I'll tell you, Carius Kern, a lot of the conversations around Kern have to do with his maturity level, I guess we could put it that way. One example I'll tell you is the Saturday scrimmage in Tiger Stadium before the Clemson game, the final Saturday before Clemson. If you go back and you're interested, you can find my notes or the episode we did. Well, Carius Kern didn't participate. One of the things I was told is that the staff told him it was up to him. And they thought he was able and wanted him to participate, and he chose not to. And I think that really upset some people on staff, and it's one of the reasons you didn't see him early in the season until about a month in before he finally started getting some playing time, and some of that was out of necessity. So I think there was a little bit of that with Kern. And maybe he declares for the portal to see what's out there, and maybe he ultimately returns to LSU. I don't know how it'll play out. But I think this is an example, Carius Kern, Ahmad Bro, of this staff very clearly trusting their evaluations and what they are prioritizing with this roster. There's 9 in the portal right now, and I would say the only surprises are the 2 I just mentioned, Bro and Kern. And it's not a surprise based on the evaluations that Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock are doing right now to put together this roster, not only from the talent standpoint, but the financial allocation so far. They go and they'll look at the film with all of these players. They'll do coaches assessment, character assessments. They'll look at physical traits. They'll look at the team dynamics. And based on their overall plan, they are assigning a salary amount to each player. And so if player X made this amount in 2025, but Billy Glasscock and Lane Kiffin feel like they're actually worth 60% of that amount, then the player may say, all right, I'm going to go test the market. And like maybe that's what happened here with Carius Kern. And if he leaves, then they're going to have that financial allocation for a player that they think fits what they want to do. And so that's the best that I could tell. And so we, as I've said, and you're going to hear me continue to say this, we need to reframe how we think about roster building, because it is very clear that Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock have a plan, and it is just a different plan than we are used to. And you paid this man $91 million to execute that plan, so let him go execute it. Now, one of the things he absolutely is going to have to do is figure out quarterback. And we talked earlier in the week, if you're an everyday or you heard it, about some of the quarterbacks that are and maybe are not on the list. Well, Austin Simmons, his father, David Simmons, gave an interview on Nevin Shapiro's podcast and talked specifically about Kiffin and LSU. You'll hear that, and we'll react to it next. Locked in LSU, your team every day. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there. Suddenly the number in your bank account just doesn't match the number in your head. Well, Rocket Money helps you get clarity. It helps you track every dollar and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money will find subscriptions that you forgot you were paying, and it'll help you clean them up quickly. Like, for example, there was a gym membership that I had that was auto drafting from my account. I forgot about it. Well, I was able to cancel it very quickly thanks to Rocket Money. And when you see all of your spending on one dashboard, it makes it so much easier to understand where your money is going. Take control of your finances. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. We are obviously going to be fascinated to see what happens with Lane Kiffin in this portal cycle, in particular at quarterback. So earlier this week, when some big names like DJ Lagway, Brennan Sorsby from Cincinnati, Dylan Raiola from Nebraska entered the transfer portal, we looked at a lot of names that could be targets for LSU, and we looked at some of the betting odds. And one of the names that I also brought up was Austin Simmons. Of course, Austin Simmons, the lefty who showed up at Ole Miss at 16 years old, was a dynamic left-handed pitcher in baseball, chose to go the football route. His dad, as I understand it, as I'm learning a lot now, is one of those overbearing fathers who is going to be very involved in everything about his son's recruitment and development and all that sort of stuff. I had one person close to Ole Miss refer to it as sort of like a Todd Marinovich situation, if you're familiar with that older reference. Todd Marinovich's father was basically building the perfect football player in a lab. I don't know if it's to that degree, but it is sort of an example of an out front father. I don't know that I would say LeVar Ball or Richard Williams along those lines, or Earl Woods, but it's an overbearing father. And David Simmons gave an interview on Nevin Shapiro's podcast. If you don't remember, Nevin Shapiro is the sort of infamous Miami booster who went to prison. And they started by talking about Austin Simmons and Lane Kiffin leaving, and the possibility of Austin Simmons following Lane Kiffin to LSU. So you'll hear two voices. You'll hear Nevin Shapiro asking the question, and you'll also hear David Simmons.
Is Austin a possibility to follow him to LSU, depending on what happens?
Like, we don't have, listen, like, the thing with Charlie Weiss went with him too. The whole offensive staff just about went with him. So Austin will be plug and play. I mean, I'm not a fool. So we don't have an issue with Lane personally. It's business. Mm-hmm. So I know other people understand that, hey, you should be upset. Why? He did get hurt. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm a coach.
You know how it goes.
I done bench my own son. So I bench my own son that's here now. So if you get hurt, get out. That's what you got to do. You got to roll that guy up, next man up. Mm-hmm. And the guy played well. We won games. Yeah. So you can't put a guy on the bench. He's a great kid.
He went on to talk about Trinidad Chambliss and compliment him and his family greatly. But you heard him say a few things there. If he went to LSU, he'd be plug and play because he knows Lane's system. So we don't have an issue with Lane. Consistently in the first person plural, we, not Austin, we don't have an issue. But one of the things I was told earlier this week is that David Simmons and Austin Simmons, they were upset about being benched because of injury and not getting the job back, and that they wouldn't follow Lane to LSU. Now, I think what he's saying there is very smart. You don't want to close any door. You don't want to shut off any possibility. So I think it's very smart to say the right things. I do believe my information is good. It's not to say that couldn't change somewhere along the way, but I don't think Austin Simmons would be at the top of the list of targets for Lane Kiffin. And I also don't believe that would be the desired spot for Austin Simmons. Now, David Simmons, his dad, on his podcast, spoke a little longer about LSU and Lane Kiffin.
We'll definitely be interested. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
LSU, like I say, is a great program. Everybody knows about LSU. And with before even NIL, look at how many Heisman Trophy guys came for transfers.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So it's weird. It's weird, we got Jaden, got Burrow. That's just there, right?
Great example.
Yeah, I talked to Marcus Russell 2 weeks ago. So he wasn't Heisman, but he's a first round pick. These the places just that place just breed good situations.
Right.
I don't think Lane was even happy about leaving Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He just made a decision. And
business is business, man. And we were talking last week, and you're like, listen, man.
I ain't mad at Lane for leaving.
So he's not mad. And that's one thing he did say consistently, that he's not mad at Lane for leaving Ole Miss. And you could tell Lane is a very transactional person, and it feels very much like the Simmons situation here will be very transactional. So it's going to be one to follow. And I do not think that's going to be one, my understanding, at the top of LSU's list. But Simmons is a very gifted player, and we'll see how that all goes. Now, the other thing, and this is probably also one of the reasons why I don't think Simmons lands at LSU, is because he has options. How many schools have targeted Austin Simmons so far?
About 25, 30.
Wow. Schools have reached out, yeah.
And probably about 10 NFL GMs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Is he okay? Is he mentally? Yeah, he's fine.
You handled it great. We spoke.
Kid's great.
You handled it great. The way you handled. You took the. I don't want to even call it a benching, but it was really just because of the injury. Obviously,
right.
The way you handled it and the way he handled it was.
He was legit. It was not. He supports Trinidad.
Yeah.
I'll support Trinidad now.
Yeah, that was important, man. That was important. I think that's a really good look for whoever. That's leadership. Yeah, honestly,
he a coach's kid. He know what happened. My kid not stupid.
Yeah,
I got hurt. They winning the game. Now I think we'll lose some games. He might look sideways. We're down there. We 3-3. What we doing?
Yeah.
Well, they're not 3-3. Ole Miss in the college football playoff, and they'll play Tulane on Saturday. Austin Simmons will be there for how much longer? That'll be interesting to see. Hey, I do want to remind you and thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked on the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now you can take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked on LSU with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. You can go to the link in the show notes to learn more. Now, we are going to wrap up with some excerpts from a conversation I had with LSU basketball coach Matt McMahon. Excited for you to hear this next. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. The holidays always show up faster than we expect. And if you're still putting together gifts, last-minute decor, or you're getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, you need new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, with decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. And it's so easy to shop by style. Wayfair helps you pick pieces that actually fit your home instead of trying to guess what may fit best. And it's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to a bunch of different stores. Get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We haven't spent a ton of time talking about the LSU men's basketball team, and with good reason. The last 2 months have been bonkers after LSU fired the football coach and then pursued Lane Kiffin. But Matt McMahon's squad got the biggest win of the early season this past weekend when they beat SMU, their first quad one win of the non-conference. Had a chance this week to speak with LSU head men's basketball coach Matt McMahon. And a few of the excerpts I think you're going to find interesting. First, the importance for this team of that SMU win.
I mean, that moved us up to 32 in the net, like we said. I mean, there are 8 teams ahead of us that don't have any quad one wins yet. Even a third of the top 50 in the country doesn't have a quad one win yet. So it was good for us. Hopefully it'll help us down the road. I do think that SMU team will win a lot of games in the ACC. We know that, we got to handle a high-level opportunities when we do get to SEC play. But I just think getting that win was important. But more importantly than that was the response to the disappointing performance in Fort Worth and getting back to playing more to our identity, which has been in the paint and physicality and playing with great pace and getting up and down the floor. And so it was good to see us get back to doing what we've been doing really since the season started.
Now, we told you that this team started 8-0, but they didn't play a single quad 1 or quad 2 game. 5 games against quad 4, 3 games against quad 3. They started 8-0. They played a quad 1 team, got blown out by Texas Tech. They play another quad 1 team, and they beat SMU. Something I've learned over the years is every coach is very intentional with how they build their non-conference schedule. So I asked Matt McMahon to explain what his thought process was in building this schedule. Give a listen.
Behind the thought of it was in November, we were not expecting to have Jalen Reed back until December. Also having 12 of our 14 players being new, we wanted to open up the first few weeks of the season at home with those first 5 games we had. I also knew because of the disappointing way we finished SEC play last year, we would start low in the computer rankings, and there were some things we needed to do from a offensive and defensive efficiency standpoint to improve that. And then as we just came out of that 5-game stretch against some much better teams where we were able to get a couple quad 1 opportunities on neutral courts. And, I thought the Destin tournament field might end up being better than it was, but it just came out the way it did as they put that event together. So, and then the final piece of it is now these games it's hard to get these games around Christmas. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to play a couple games at home here to stay sharp heading into the start of league play.
Matt McMahon knows he's got to get his team to the NCAA tournament, period, point blank. So how do you do that? Well, you have to stockpile wins and make sure the numbers back it up. So how do you do that? Well, he scheduled a lot of games you're going to win, and you heard him say there, he knows quad 1 opportunities, offensive efficiency metrics mattered because he was going to start low and how it boosted. All of that is so intentional. I actually asked him to dig deeper into the numbers. Give a listen.
It vary. I mean, I think when you look at it, it's how, right now, I believe we're 32 in the net. A lot of that is because of the win over SMU, certainly, but it's also due to the way we were able to perform in November, not only to win games, but to be very efficient offensively and defensively in the metrics helped us really raise our number from, I believe we started around 58 or 59. And so to get where we're at now is really good for us. We know there'll be a lot of quad one opportunities as you get into SEC play. But you're very aware, Matt, because the crazy thing about it, every possession counts the same. And, you gotta handle your business both offensively and defensively, whether it's winning by 35 against a quad 3 team or just finding a way to win, period, over a quad 1. So it all factors in.
It all factors in. Everything is very intentional with how they build their resume. And the Tigers right now at 9-1 have a really good start. They've got 3 layups, pun intended, before they open up conference play. If you go into conference play 12-1, a top 35 team in the net, you're going to position yourself nicely that if you can find yourself somewhere around 500 in conference play, you'll be an NCAA tournament team. And that is certainly the goal for this team, that you hear your name called on Selection Sunday. They're on their way. Thanks for tuning in today to Locked on LSU. Please make sure that you subscribe and follow Locked on LSU so you get all the latest episodes. And if you need any last-minute holiday gift ideas for someone who keeps asking, or someone asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through the link in the show notes. So for those of you on video, we'll send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On College Football. That'll do it for us here today. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you are on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.